Hello, everyone. I want to go over digital learning and entrepreneurship's department highlights for the year. We had a very good year. We've been transitioning between a number of different goals moving forward. And I just want to give you an overview of how our goals have evolved. So I'm just going to go to our sheet here. So just to give you an overview of how our goals have evolved over the past year or so, is that originally we had content area goals and integrations. So we were using some feedback from students in departments around MTSS, department feedback. We started working with financial literacy and embedding that into our curriculum more consistently through digital tools. And we also began with digital learning, computer science, knowledge and skill integration. So looking at the courses that we had and seeing how we could better integrate the skills around digital learning and computer science into our existing, not only our computer science and technology courses, but also into our business department curriculum. We progressed out of those goals from 21-22 into goals that were around identifying core vocabulary and instructional practices across the variety of different types of courses that we have in our curriculum. Um, this began with us looking at if we were going to develop a common assessment, what would need to be part of the common assessment across the courses. So we started looking at developing question types. We started looking at evaluating the questions according to not only the national business standards, but also the digital learning and computer science standards, and also around what we expected students to be able to take from each individual course. Well, one of those large pieces was also students understanding what are the major components of a business plan. So those were the takeaways around our development of a common assessment kind of framework this year. And what's going to happen now is this is the year where we've developed the questions, develop our strategy, and put together a way to then get some first level data to kind of test our questions and also see the type of data we receive back from the students and the questions that we've designed, so we can see if we need to modify the questions or change them in any way. So with this common assessment, we really wanted to look at the collective experiences of all the students across the courses in the digital learning and entrepreneurship department. We also wanted to look at the strengths of those courses and what they provide to a student's knowledge of a business plan, and also the technology side, and also how do they align to standards alignment and tagging, digital learning, financial literacy, computer science, and national business standards. So that's a little story of our progress of the goals from 2021 to today and how they've evolved. So within the digital learning and entrepreneurship department, our goal number one was based on the data collected from the 21-22 school year and the feedback that we received related to Tier 1 MTSS strategies. We felt like it was essential to identify the core vocabulary and instructional practices which supported these components of the curriculum and how the curriculum was taught. Um, and how did it look within common assessments, and also how did it affect instructional practices with teachers. Our second goal was based on the student growth across financial literacy units in the 21-22 school year. The department identified and implemented a curriculum and assessments as a part of the EverFi digital curriculum strategically to align and support the content knowledge of the department courses it best supports. So our first goal was basically to use the data we collected around MTSS and SEL strategies and bring it into our common assessment design, and also within financial literacy, what we gained from integrating it into different courses into our common assessment design. So we're finding a more consistent way to bring both of these elements into a very strategic way of measuring students' knowledge with it across our entire department. So some of the processes of us developing a common assessment included measuring the essential skills that students would need across different courses to be successful in their area, but also know what skills students weren't getting if they didn't take a certain course, and also measuring the data and comparing the data around those two. And our plan is that we do an initial implementation of questions during this school year while developing the questions, designing them, figuring out how we're going to implement it across courses, and then collecting some data. Then we're going to use that data the next year to improve the assessment and implement it formally. The assessment will measure the core learning standards and student skills required across the department. And once again, going back to that, what does a student need to be able to complete a business plan cohesively? And also, how does it hit those other areas that we've been focusing on, such as MTSS skills and SEL and financial literacy? So, some of the resources we used was our own department time, National Business Standards, the DLCS standards, our financial literacy standards. Um, and also during this year, we used a lot of Google Sheets to track questions, and we're implementing the Edulastic platform to collect the data and allow us to review it more formally. And Edulastic is a tool that allows us to provide the assessment to students and then use the tools within Edulastic to look at the data in a more efficient manner. Here are the components that we identified for our assessment. So the core areas, a part of our process driven by our department instructional content, was knowledge of the business plan, business standards, DLCS standards, student experiences, potential pathways for student opportunities, which was a big topic that our department talked a lot about during the process of working on the questions. And in the future, integrate multiple data points. So, what type of data would we have from, within our system that can help support how we look at this data to see, is it more effectively if we look at, freshmen versus sophomore, juniors, and their experiences across the courses and what types of knowledge that they're bringing, and is any of that important to tell them if we have data that can help them make decision making around courses. We're very focused on financial literacy. We're also focused on the technology skills, the idea of developing a consistent and cohesive business plan, and financial math is very important. Global culture and how it applies to business skills is very important. Soft skills and how students learn how to present and collaborate within different types of learning environments and work environments is really important. And also just the general depth of knowledge, how far we're able to go with these concepts across our courses and what students are able to take away from them. So it's a 2-year development process for these goals. In year 1, which is essentially where we are now, we're identifying the data points, our questions, the standards, the skills, and we're aligning them and thinking about what's the best way to implement them and what types of questions are going to be most effective with students. And we're also analyzing how do we best put the financial literacy into the questions. We're also understanding how to best put financial literacy into the questions. And our goal is to get a pre-assessment to understand how the questions are answered and what types of things we want to think about in the next year when we implement a pre and post formally. In year 2, we want to implement a pre-assessment of the common assessment early in the year. We want to review the results and of the pre-assessment and review the department plan to support the instruction around this assessment, making sure people are being consistent, making sure that we're thinking about this assessment as part of our instructional strategy with students. And then we want to do a post-assessment at the end of the year and see how the growth shows across courses and departments and are students getting a robust experience across the departments in terms of which they're asking for specific understanding of the development of a business plan and also getting core technology skills as they identify these courses that they want to take as well. And what we'll continue to do is look at the student growth pre and post and see how is it different between a student who picks to go one track versus another track in terms of their course options with electives in the business, with business skills and also with the technology and digital learning components. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. My email is ddowns@nrpsk12 if you have any questions around our goals in the digital learning and entrepreneurship department. I find the goals to be a really good set of goals because it's something we can work on as a team really well. And also is great because it's bringing stuff that we've continually worked on and we're continuing to work on and improve it. We're taking information that we've acquired from before based on student learning and instructional practices, and we're moving forward in a way that we're best understanding what students are going to be taking from our program of studies and what students are taking from each individual business course, how is it scaffolding and building with student experience. So I appreciate your time checking out the presentation. Have a great day.